Hello everyone, Manny here, and in today's video we're going to be doing something more technical. Now if you haven't checked it out, as the thumbnail showed it, we're going to be doing a spring change on the new series of SPECNA ARMS. Now you really won't need this if you just purchased it because it should come with a high power spring. But it seems that this model that I got seemed to have the low power spring installed in it rather than the high power. So for those of you who are not techie, but can still move around with some tools and do a few things here and there, this video is for you. Now, if you haven't checked my unboxing and review on this sniper rifle, then go ahead and check it out on my channel. With that being said, let's not prolong this video and go to the workbench and see how we're gonna do this. Okay everyone, so the start of this, we'll see what tools we're going to need in order to do this. For this, they should already have come with you a set of Allen keys that we'll be using in order to do the spring change. Now for this, right, you should only need two of these, which is the smallest Allen key and the largest one. So it means the tools, that's all that you're gonna require. Now to start the disassembly down to where you need to remove the spring, there is going to be two keyholes in the bottom of the stock of your sniper rifle from SPECNA ARMS. And you're going to be using the large Allen key and putting the long side through one of the holes and unscrewing it. Just make sure, I usually give it an extra few spins just to make sure the screw is completely out, that way I don't have to battle with it. And that's that. And then on the next one, some people might ask, should I put thread lock in these screws? And I don't think you should, especially being that they're very hidden and they're pretty much set to stay in place. So I wouldn't do that because then it would cause a lot of issues when you want to change the spring. For instance, if you want to go to a lower power spring or even higher one, right? Or if you need to change it because your high power one was messed up. Now that you've unscrewed those two screws, you should be able to lift the receiver and the outer barrel up and out. We'll set this to the side. Just be careful when you set it down. We'll set this stock over to the side where we don't need it. Now, for this next step, I'm gonna illuminate a little bit of light, hopefully, or you should be able to see it. But there, you're gonna be using the small Allen key, and there should be like a very small keyhole right here. I'm gonna get this a little bit closer. Hopefully, you can focus right there. This little keyhole right here is what's holding down the threads on the outer barrel. So we're going to unscrew that, and once that's done, you set it aside. I usually will either use like a cup or like the cover of a container in order to set down small screws like these that are loose, just to make sure you don't lose them. It's a very good practice, especially if you want to get into teching. You could also use a magnetic bowl. Once that's done, you should be able to unscrew the outer barrel counterclockwise. Keep going all the way until it comes off. Now this is going to be more of the messy part, so you can either choose to wear gloves, not wear gloves, it's up to you. But because the bolt requires to be lubricated so that there's not much friction, there's going to be a lot of lube. So you just remove that, and you have the front of pretty much what would be the area that contains the piston. Now this is very important, very, very important. These new SPECNA ARMS, I don't know about previous models, have an indicator on the rear. You can see it right here. Right now it's showing black because the pin that's inside is not fully loaded. Now if it shows red, you need to make sure you pull the trigger. First, make sure if it's fully assembled, make sure to aim it in a safe direction with iPro on, and fire it just to make sure there's no BB in the chamber. If it's fully disassembled and you didn't realize it, just aim it in a safe direction, pull the trigger. Shouldn't be any issues because you still have all the internal parts still assembled together. So just make sure the spring is not fully loaded, because once we open this up, you don't want stuff shooting out. So we'll set this down. Now, the other tool that I forgot to mention that we can use is either pliers, but do not use the pliers to try to remove the front from the nozzle. You'll damage it and you probably won't be able to take it off. If you have something like actual pliers with rubber nose, that might help, but this method is a little bit better. So there's these two holes in the front, and let's see if we can have this focus a little bit. But there's these two holes, and with the needle nose pliers, or the flat nose, we'll set the tips into those two holes and we'll rotate it counterclockwise. Now it is slightly spring loaded because of the tension, especially if we're talking about the 500 FPS spring. So when you're unscrewing it, once you remove some of the tension off of it, try to use a piece of cloth so that way it doesn't jab against your hand, or if you're using gloves. There you go, see? So it's slightly spring loaded. So now that we've opened that front, the piston is going to come out. We'll set that to the side, and then the spring is gonna come out, right? There should be a guide rod on the inside that's still locked in because there is a screw holding it in the back to keep it centered. Now, as you can see, these springs are covered in pretty much lubricant. So you wanna make sure that if you get your new spring, it's gonna be dry to avoid friction or to keep it from corrosion. You wanna apply like a very nice, gentle amount of it around it. One of the lubricants that I use is the Super Lube, either the multi-purpose synthetic, or you can use the silicone one, whichever is fine. That being said, you've already acquired the spring that was already inside. You want to put in the new one. Simply, what you need to do is insert the spring back. Just make sure that if you have a flashlight, just make sure you check that it is seated properly on the guide rod. Once that's done, you place back the piston, right? If you remove the lubrication off of the piston around the O-rings, right? Make sure you apply a new amount of lubrication onto the piston. Now this is where the little bit of a harder part's gonna happen. You're gonna get your hands a little bit dirty, but in order to put back the front nozzle, you're going to have to push as much as you can down and then try to rotate the nozzle and make sure it's seated well as to not cross thread the threads on it. And there you go. Having a little bit of hard time, but once I put this back, I'll come back to you guys just for the reassembly. Okay guys, we are back, and as I was putting this back, I did clean the nozzle. You want to make sure you kind of clean it, and that is because you don't want any of that lubrication going into your inner barrel, because then it might, you know, cause problems, right, with the stability of the BB. You don't want that. You don't want lubrication in it. So now that we've put that back in, now what is the process that we have to do in order to put it back together? Pretty simple. Reverse. So we'll grab our outer barrel, which has the inner barrel in it. We'll set it down. I usually like to go a couple times counterclockwise to make sure it aligns properly, and then I start screwing it back in. Now this is a very important part. In the cross thread, or in the threads, you should see the little indent that the screw made. You're gonna wanna align that with the hole that the small screw that holds on to the outer barrel. That way the alignment is the same. Now I haven't done this with this sniper rifle, but I do usually will get a marker, either a white marker with a different color, and what I'll do is I'll mark it on the outer barrel, and that way every time I undo it, if I have to do any change, any maintenance, any cleaning, any removal of the hop up or bucking, I know where the alignment is without having to do the same thing over and over again, which is making sure that that indentation in the threads matches the hole. So you'll screw back on. Now, if you feel kind of iffy that you might lose the screw or it might come off because of vibration or such, you can put a very small amount of thread lock, preferably blue thread lock, and that should be enough to just hold it in so that it doesn't move around. You'll realize that I haven't had the chance to use this, so I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue. So now that you screwed that back in, you should be all good to go. We'll grab the body. We'll put back the upper receiver back into polymer body, making sure it aligns well. And you'll pretty much know if there's an issue with the alignment of the barrel, because part of it has to sit in, because the magazine release is part of the outer barrel as well. You'll grab your large Allen key, start screwing back in the screws. This one might take a little bit longer. There you go. Set that to the side, set everything to the side, and there you have it. That is how you change your spring on your new SPECNA ARMS S14 model. It should be the same for all SPECNA ARMS models for the new ones that are out. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Do you want me to make other videos on doing maintenance for the SPECNA ARMS? Other than that, don't forget to follow my social medias showing right now down below. That's been it for me today, guys. See you until next time. Some people believe it's rivaling even that of high kappa and Glock for rifle, as well as we have pistols. If you wish to take a